everyone right now is trying to scramble to find new supplier sources outside of China. So I get requests literally every week of like Amazon sellers are like, oh my God, I have to pay 45% tariffs on my product. Can you help me find a supplier in Vietnam or in Mexico?
Welcome to the Mastering E-commerce Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Eitan Koter, co-CEO of Vimy. In an era of rising acquisition costs and increased competition, this podcast is dedicated to helping you drive sales, engage customers, and build meaningful communities so you can turn passive visitors into active buyers. Now let's get started with the episode. Today we have Ricky Ho, CEO and co-founder of SourceReady. Ricky, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Eitan. Great to be on the show.
Yeah, so Ricky, this episode today is all about finding partners, logistics partner, manufacturers. You've implementing AI in a really interesting technology platforms that I would love you to discuss with you today. And you obviously have a substantial experience in the sourcing, manufacturing, right, field of the industry. But before we get started, Ricky, if you can choose like 3 words that are most important to you and why.
Yeah, so I think optimism, productivity, and transparency would be the 3 words that I would choose. And then first, obviously, optimism. I think I'm an optimist, especially now with AI. I think a lot of people, there's like basically two takes on AI. Like some people are pretty pessimistic on AI, but I genuinely think that AI will make our lives better. Like I think a lot of the work that we don't want to do in the future will be handled by AI, and we have more time for family. We have more time for more productive and creative tasks. And then productivity, I think, comes with this. I've been working on different types of tools for over a decade, and I'm really interested in like building productivity tools because I think it gives really, like, I want people to enjoy their work. And I think people a lot of times don't enjoy their work because they feel unproductive. But when you do things that are useful, and you can kind of handle a lot of this like repetitive tasks using, good tools, I think it makes people's lives much better. And then lastly, I think with transparency, I think it comes with both like from a personal perspective, I think honesty is important, but also from a supply chain perspective. I think today, as more brands try to elevate and tell their brand story, I think more and more consumers care a lot more about the transparency behind where their product comes from. Especially now you see this like influx of like cheap Chinese products like Shein and Temu. A lot of these products are not being manufactured in the most ethical ways. And I think supply chain transparency is going to be something that's going to be very important for the next decade moving on. So I think those are kind of the 3 terms that
really interesting. It's a question I ask all my guests, and has become so powerful just to quickly, for our audience to grasp, who you are, get to know you better, and really thank you so much for sharing that. And really love the combination of your 3 letters chosen. So Ricky, you have a rich, background in textile. Obviously, it's a family business, right? Tell us more about, where you started and what led you to found SourceReady.
Yeah, so my family business has been around since the 1970s. We started out making textile in Hong Kong. We make, textile for some of the biggest brands in the world, including Abercrombie and Fitch, Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger. And basically, ever since I was a kid, I've looked at how the industry is changing, including where factories are changing, right? We started out obviously in China, and then now our factories are also in Vietnam. And I think one of the things that's interesting is that I think this is an industry where it's actually something that impacts, millions of people every day because, everyone wears clothes, but it's an industry that's very far behind in terms of technology, like very, very far behind. Like I can tell you, like there are, suppliers that do hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, but still run their entire business on Excel. And I just think that this is a very interesting dynamic where you see all these, Silicon Valley innovation and AI and transformation, but, ironically, the supply chain, which is like one of the most important aspects of our daily lives, I would argue is probably one of the most traditional industries, and probably not just in textile and apparel. I'm pretty sure every manufacturing industry is probably quite behind in terms of digital innovation. So that's why I also like part of my inspiration of like starting SourceReady and this like AI tool is I think there needs to be more innovation in this space. And that's kind of what got me into it.
Interesting. So for you, although it can be a really big and substantial business from the 1970s, you lack the technology and innovation aspect. It's something that you wanted to have, on a day-to-day career, right?
Yeah, of course. And yeah, and like the family business is still, we produce millions of, garments every year. But I'm not involved on a day-to-day basis. I'm still focusing on building SourceReady. But I think it's interesting just having the perspective of both from the retailer and brand, as well as the perspective of what a supplier and manufacturer thinks about. And yeah, and every time I talk to brands, I always share how do factories think about their relationship with their customers, so that as a brand, you can also understand how the factory is thinking when you're working with them.
Interesting. So what was the, let's say, maybe industry failure or problem you found in the sourcing or suppliers industry?
I think the biggest problem, going back to my term of transparency. So most of the world's best suppliers are invisible online. So if you think about the average, the supplier that works with Lululemon or Calvin Klein or these top brands, you're not going to find them on Alibaba or these traditional directories. Especially now, you can see there's like more and more brands want to elevate their product quality. They want to make differentiated products. Like drop shipping was like very popular, over the past 7-8 years. It's very hard to make money on drop shipping anymore. Like you have to make differentiated products, especially if you're trying to build a brand. And these really good suppliers, you're not going to find on these traditional online sources. So the pain point that we wanted to tackle is how can we aggregate the world's, supply chain data and allow, these smaller brands to get access to this high quality data. So if you think about these big brands like Ralph Lauren and Calvin Klein, they have entire teams in Hong Kong and in Asia that goes all, and they try to look for factories every day. And they have, they have the ability to do that because they have the money, they have the manpower. But if you're a small brand and you only have like 3 people and most of your energy is focused on marketing, you probably don't have the resources and capability to find that supplier that's really, really differentiated and good. So that's kind of our goal, is like we want to help the small guy, help the brand that's just starting, build a better supply chain and find a partner that actually is going to help elevate their product.
Okay, so the platform expose more, let's say, validated suppliers, right? Depending on the projects that customers are defining on the onboarding. So it gives them access or data to more suppliers, but it also obviously clear out all the fragmented data that is like all over right now online or whatever platform they find.
Correct. And this is like the problem with Alibaba. Like I'm sure everyone has tried using Alibaba. A lot of the data there is extremely like not real. Like you'll be talking to a factory on their website. It says it's $6, but when you actually message them, they'll tell you no, it's actually $9. And then the worst thing is that a lot of these factories that you talk to on Alibaba, they say they're a factory, but they're actually not. They're actually like a trading company or a middleman disguised as a supplier. So there's very little transparency on these directories. And I'll tell you the main reason. It's because Alibaba and these directories make 90% of their revenue from factories and suppliers advertising. So they don't make money from the buyers. They make money from suppliers advertising. So this is why, like, whenever you search a result on Alibaba, a lot of times the suppliers are not good because these suppliers will pay a lot of money to rank on Alibaba. And that's why there's a lot of bias in the search result.
Wow.
And yes, and this is why we really want to help the buyers find an unbiased search result, right? Like if I want to find a factory, I don't want to find whoever pays the most for the search result. Like I want to find the supplier that actually makes really high quality products and matches my criteria. And ironically, this is where the irony comes. It's like the better the supplier, most likely the less desperate they are for business. And that's for that reason, this is why you can't find them on Alibaba. So they're not going to pay millions to advertise on Alibaba. And this is why oftentimes, to find that Lululemon supplier or that like super high quality factory, you have to like go through relationships. You have to like know someone that used to like work at Lululemon, or if you know someone in the industry, they might make an introduction. But if you don't know that person, it's actually very hard for you to even find their information.
Interesting. So how do you do that? And like which how do you vet partners and which data signals are most predictive for supply quality?
Yeah, so we have hundreds of different data sources, but I would say the data source that we leverage the most is customs data. So import-export data. So we get that from over 70 different countries. So for example, if you know a supplier works with a brand that's known for quality, most likely this supplier is going to be a good high quality supplier. just think about right now offline, right? If you were to meet a supplier at a trade show, one of the most common questions you ask is, hey, well, who are your existing customers? And if a supplier says, oh, we mainly work with Walmart and Costco, versus if a supplier says, hey, we work with North Face and Arc'teryx or Lululemon, in your mind, you obviously think like, okay, the supplier that's the Walmart supplier is probably cheaper, but probably less quality than the one that is, a Lululemon. So there's no like good or bad, right? Like, if you're looking for something cheap, you probably want to look for a supplier that works with cheaper retailers. If you want to work something more premium, then you should look for a premium brand. So the way we build it is we kind of build a persona of the factory or supplier based on the type of customers they mainly work with. So if a supplier, 80% of their customers are premium, direct to consumer brands, then that's the type of, product or quality that they're going to be mainly focused on. Whereas a supplier that mainly does this large volume, low cost kind of product, like if they're doing like Shein and Temu and Amazon and, Walmart, then they're probably going to be the cheaper, more volume driven kind of supplier. So that's the way we kind of mainly look at it. But we also look at other things like certifications they have, how long they've been in the industry for. We look at information like how much has their, like what regions they're in. So if they're in Vietnam versus China, different countries have different specializations, and you're also gonna have different cost benefits. So for example, you have tariff rate. So Vietnam might have a lower tariff for a certain product than China, given all the tariff situation going on between US and China. So we will analyze that for you as well and say, hey, even though this Vietnam supplier might be slightly more expensive from a production perspective, in the end, you pay a lesser price because if you consider the tariffs, it's actually better to work with the Vietnam supplier. So we take all these factors into consideration.
Yeah, yeah. So what will be your ideal customer profile?
So we've actually worked with a wide range of different retailers and customers, but I would say the majority are going to be like small to emerging e-commerce brands and Amazon sellers. Those are 90% of our customer base. And the main reason is because everyone right now is trying to scramble to find new supplier sources outside of China. So I get requests literally every week of like Amazon sellers are like, oh my God, I have to pay 45% tariffs on my product. Like, can you help me find a supplier in Vietnam or in Mexico that can make the same thing? So that I would say that's the majority of our customers, but we also work with very big customers as well. So for example, Ralph Lauren is a customer of ours. Carrefour, which is the largest retailer in France, is also a customer of ours. So these big retailers, the reason why they use our software is they're also trying to leverage AI to streamline a lot of their sourcing processes. Because even though they have, a lot of resources and people, they don't want to spend this time manually looking for factories when they can just have AI do the search for them.
Yes, yes. So how a typical onboarding process look like?
So the great thing about our tool is that you can get started right away for free. So if you go to our website, sourceready.com, you can directly, it's like ChatGPT, you can directly type in a search and you just describe what your requirements are. So you can say, hey, I want to find suppliers that can make high quality, cotton t-shirts in, particular country. And I want the MOQ to be under this. Our AI will take all of your requirements, search through our database, and, return you a list of suppliers that best match your requirements.
Interesting. It's a self-service platform. There is no like hand-holding or onboarding. It's more manual. It's a self-service platform, ChatGPT based. You just type what you want and you get results. And what happens next? So you get a list of potential suppliers that fits your requirements. What happens thereafter?
The next step is our platform we will ask to integrate with your email, and then you can use our system to bulk send the inquiry. So one of the most time-consuming parts of sourcing is actually talking and communicating with each supplier, right? So let's say you wanted to make, this cotton t-shirt. You actually have to reach out to the supplier and say, hey, what's your best price for 500 pieces? When can you deliver it by? When can I get a sample? You're going to have all this like back and forth communication. And then let's say you talk to 5 different suppliers, you're probably going to compare who has the best price, who has the best timeline. And then ultimately out of those 5, you might choose, the one that works best for you. So the way our AI works is you can just tell our AI what are the main requirements you have. And then once you tell our AI will reach out to the supplier for you. It will talk back and forth with each supplier and then organize all their answers. So literally you can like invite 50 suppliers, go to sleep, wake up the next day, and then you'll have all the quotes organized.
Well, nice.
And a lot of our customers will tell us like, they'll wake up at like 2 a.m. to like talk to suppliers because obviously a lot of the suppliers are in China or in Asia. And then if you want to get a quick response, you have to like, be in the time zone that they are in. Um, so that's a great thing about AI is like, you don't have to wake up at 2 a.m. to talk to the supplier. You can have AI talk to the supplier while you're sleeping. When you wake up, you get a bunch of qualified quotes without you having to actually spend that time. And then the supplier actually does not know they're talking to AI. Like they just see your email. They just see you, like they just think that you're asking the questions, you're asking giving them all the information. But in reality, they're actually talking to like an AI bot that's collecting the answer.
Yeah. There's like a completely different expertise, right? In terms of the outreach, AI technology, scripting, right? Understanding this console, crafting another replies, and it's really embedded into your platform. Super, super interesting. So Ricky, what, regions are now emerging? You know, obviously we talked about China and tariffs, and what other regions are emerging as a major manufacturing hubs?
Yeah, so depends on where you are, but if you're in North America, I would say, for example, like Mexico, nearshoring is a big trend. Like the apparel and textile industry is actually developing quite quickly there. Medical devices is doing very well in Mexico. If you're doing anything related to like automotive parts, Mexico is also great. South America is also a region that we've seen a lot of customers search for. So Brazil, Argentina, a lot of, good like food-based products. Like if you're trying to make like coffee beans or if you're trying to make a certain like ingredient-based products, like South America has really, really good raw material. Um, and then I think in terms of like consumer goods, like if you're trying to make like, apparel or, electronics and these things, I would say Southeast Asia, especially Vietnam, is the main source that people are going to outside of China. And the main reason why Vietnam and these places are appealing is obviously it has a lower labor cost than China, but also because a lot of these factories in Vietnam are actually owned or partially owned by Chinese companies. So they actually bring the expertise. So like, so you get the benefit of working with like experienced manufacturers with decades of experience, but you also have the benefit of avoiding tariffs from the China tariffs, as well as you get the benefit of not being entangled in this U.S.-China rivalry. So I would say Southeast Asia is also a really attractive location.
Got it. Got it. So the platform will help with any type of product, any type of niche, or it's more specifically targeting
Any
specific
type
niche?
of product.
Okay.
So literally, like we have customers sourcing, for example, like robotic parts components, from suppliers in Israel and Germany and North America. We have customers obviously searching consumer products, right? Like they want to find who is the fabric supplier for Aloe Yoga. We have customers, for example, searching for FDA certified supplements, which is like consumable food products. So the reason why we have all this data is because we get data directly from the end source, the shipping data, the customs data. So any product that is shipped gets indexed by our platform. Um, so actually, is it okay if I show a really quick demo?
Sure.
All right, let me share my screen real quick. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes.
So in this example, I'm searching for suppliers for paper chocolate bags with pet lamination shipping to European retailers. And you can see like our AI looks through our database and searches for the exact supplier that can make this like chocolate bag with pet lamination. And this is like for any type of products. Let's say I can do a real search right now. So let's say you want to find out who is the supplier for like Lockheed Martin, which is like a defense, they make the F-35s and all that. You could literally
Mhm.
type Lockheed Martin in our platform and you can see where are they importing their parts from.
All the suppliers. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, all the suppliers that they're importing parts from.
And you have like any scoring mechanism of some sort?
Yeah.
Oh, the supplier.
So whenever you search for suppliers, you can actually, our AI will actually rank the supplier based on how well they match your criteria. So for example, I said, find suppliers located in China with more than 500 employees that offer sneakers. And our AI will like rank the supplier based on how well they match each criteria.
Got it.
So you
Got
can
it.
have any custom criteria that you want. So let me see if I can find another one. Supplier search. Yeah. Oh yeah, like this one. Someone trying to find a toilet plunger in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a very, very, very specific requirement. And you can see like it breaks down each requirement. Or we can look for
So how many suppliers? Yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead. How many?
So I mean, it's a lot, right? So how many suppliers you have on the platform, if you can share?
We have 1.4 million.
Wow,
Yeah.
amazing. Now I understand
It's
scale
across
things. Yes.
every category. So you could think of us like as like Google search, but for like factory data. So with products in our platform, you won't find online. And the reason why we have their data is we buy all this data from like trade shows, we get data from governments, we get data from like import export data. So you can basically search for any product or any supplier on the platform. And then a lot of our customers, what they'll do is like they'll have a very niche product. They'll find like the 50 suppliers that best match their use case, and then they'll just like bulk outreach. They'll like reach out to all 50, have AI talk to all 50 of them, and then they'll choose the best one that matches. If they didn't have our system, first of all, they wouldn't even be able to like find the 50. And even if they did, they would have to spend probably, dozens of hours like talking back and forth with each one.
Mhm. So what are important things for any entrepreneur out there or brands, when they look out and source factories or products? What's the important things that they should consider, these days?
So obviously cost is important, but I think people overemphasize cost, and that's why I want to bring this up. I think people typically want to choose the one that's the cheapest, but I think that's actually a mistake. I think for most brands, you should actually think about your cost as like, for example, you want to make differentiated products. I think in this competitive market, you actually want to find ways to stand out. So for example, you want to tell your story, right? So sustainability, for example, could be a story that you talk about. Right? How is your product manufactured? What materials are you using? For example, using recycled material or using, eco-friendly things. And even though that might be more expensive, you can command a more premium pricing to the consumer because of that differentiation. So I would say like when you choose a product or supplier, you obviously cost is important, but I would obviously look for differentiating factors that can differentiate you from all the other products in the market. So I think, yeah, sustainability is an angle, quality. And when I mean quality, I think a lot of times it's a unique construction as well as unique materials. Higher quality materials is a trend that we see that in every industry, right? Like people want things that feel premium. And a lot of times this like feeling of premium comes down to like using really high quality materials. Yes. And what else? And then also like I think if you're small, a lot of times people also have this like misconception, like you should only work with the end manufacturer. But I would say that for the majority of small brands just starting, you probably don't have the ability to work with these really good factories because you're too small. Like your volumes are just way too small. So it's actually sometimes better to work with an end-to-end service provider that can help you be the bridge between you and the supplier. And these, when choosing this kind of middle company or this agent, you want to choose one where they're not only making money from, charging like the price difference. Like you want to work with where there's transparency. So they'll tell you like the factory cost is $6, and then I'm going to make 5% on each one. But you want to have that relationship with the end factory. But it's good to have someone on the ground that can help you handle a lot of the day-to-day operations. I would say that's also something that could be quite helpful for the smaller brands.
Interesting. And this is not an area that you like to go in as a company, right? You like to actually be the, the connector, the facilitator, right, of the relationship.
So we can connect you with supply chain agents that we work with as partners. Like, so if, for example, if you need help with someone going to the factory in person to like make sure the factory is legit, we can connect you with a quality service provider or an agent that can handle that on the ground stuff. But primarily our goal is like, we want to give you a tool that gives you the best data and then also allows you to use our tool to improve your productivity.
Yes. Do you have any examples where AI detected some unreliable data or risky situation and actually eliminated suppliers? Can you share this as well?
Yeah, of course. I think there's a couple. First of all, a lot of suppliers have a lot of fake data online. So if you look at a lot of like the Alibaba suppliers, they'll on their website or on their Alibaba page, they'll put a price or MOQ that's like completely impossible. So they'll quote like a very low price. But when you actually like look at their shipping data and customs data, you realize that their export value is much higher than what they put on their website. So in our system, we immediately flag that. We're like, this price data on Alibaba is like completely inaccurate. So like, don't even look at that as a reference. So that's like one example. And then another example are like suppliers that disguise themselves as manufacturers when in reality, they don't own any factories. They're just a trading company. So the way we identify that is we also leverage a mixture of both like legal data. So we look at their incorporation. Like, are they incorporated as a manufacturer or incorporated as a trading company? That's the first thing we look at. The second thing we look at is their import-export data. So if this trading company, they're exporting both clothing one week and the next week they're exporting like food supplements, then most likely they're not going to be a manufacturer because manufacturers are very focused on like a single category. So if they're doing everything, most likely they're just a middleman. And then we highlight that in the system. We're like, hey, even though other website says they're a manufacturer, most likely they're not. And here's the reason.
Oh, got it. Interesting. So
Yeah.
where are you in the journey? I mean, tell us more about the current status of SourceReady and where are you right now?
Yeah. So our company's around a year old and we currently have 12,000 users. Still very early. But I think like we've gotten really good feedback. Like anyone that tries out our software, the feedback we get is like, why haven't I found this earlier? Like, why hasn't someone your ads previously? So
Interesting.
yeah.
How did you onboard this initial 12,000? What was the marketing activity?
Influencer marketing and SEO, I would say are the two
Mm.
main ones. So a lot of our customers actually find us on SEO. So if you search AI product sourcing on Google, we're like ranked number 1 or number 2, just organically. And the reason for that is because if you go to our website, we actually don't allow users to search even if they're not a signed up user. So we're actually very generous about like allowing people to try it out without having us like sign up or pay for it. And for that reason, like we've gotten a lot of organic traffic from just like organic sources. And then obviously like we're also, partnering with a lot of influencers to help us promote the tool.
Influencers, and they are promoting where? In which platform usually?
TikTok, Instagram,
Mm.
YouTube.
Really? Got it.
Yeah.
And what's the business model? Because you mentioned obviously you have a free plan, right? What's the business model that the company operates?
Yeah. So it's a freemium product. So we have the core product is free, but we have some limitations on the free tier. So we limit the number of searches you can do per month on the free tier. And then we also limit the number of like supplier outreach you can do. So if you want our AI to like reach out to like 100 suppliers automatically, you obviously have to pay for that. But if you just want to do a limited outreach, then that's free.
Yes. Great. So it seems that you took like a very legacy industry and created really nice, innovative type of solutions. What advice would you give to founders out there just trying to operate in a complex legacy industry?
I would say like you can there's actually a lot of things that you can learn from other industries and apply to these legacy industries. So for example, what we're doing is nothing new in like the CRM industry. Like, I don't know if you guys heard of Apollo or like Zoom Info. Now they help you find leads, find customers. So my inspiration for SourceReady is like, there should be like an Apollo or Zoom Info for like finding suppliers, but there was never like a tool like that in the space. So I think for a lot of these like legacy industries, like look at industries that are more advanced and evolved and try to apply a lot of the tools that exist in those spaces to these more traditional industries and then build more specialized tools for those legacy industries. And I think that's something that there's a lot of like potential in these like for example, like Harvey, right? They're building like AI legal, but they're basically just taking what AI agents do in every other industry and just applying it to a more traditional regulated industry. And I think the same can be said for a lot of these other legacy industries like insurance and, all these other industries.
Yes. And we know there's a lot of innovation in these legacy industries. And if you do it right, it can be like a very fast progress that you can make. Great, Ricky. So how people, companies, users can found you and the company?
Yeah, they can go to sourceready.com. Follow us on Instagram at SourceReady. And yeah, they can also add me on LinkedIn. So if you just search Ricky, SourceReady, happy to connect with anyone and share any of my insights.
Amazing. And Ricky, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, I would love any feedback. So if anyone wants to try out the tool, feel free to sign up and I'm here to help if anyone encounters any problems.
Perfect. Ricky, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. Wishing you all the best and great progress so far, and good luck in the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the end of this episode. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe so you won't miss any of our future content. Explore Vimy, the video commerce platform that includes live shopping, shoppable video, and social commerce capabilities. Visit Vimy at www.vimy.net. We appreciate your support and look forward for bringing you more valuable insights in our next episode.